What's going on? This is Shamus with the Educate to Elevate podcast coming to you on this beautiful Thursday. To everybody that listens to this podcast, I promised that I would only bring people that add value, people that I admire and look up to. And today I have my special friend, Tanya Oliver. She is one of the best coaches when it comes to you finding your better self. Mrs. Tanya, just please tell everybody where they can find you, what do you do, and, everything.
Well, first, thank you so much, Shamus, for having me on your podcast. And it is an honor. I'm in so much gratitude and appreciation. Hopefully, your audience will find as much value as this as our conversation before the podcast.
Exactly.
For those of you, let me introduce myself. My name is Tanya Oliver. I am an executive coach for high-end achievers. All that means in fancy terms is I teach people, I support people, and I hold people accountable in order to just become mentally, physically, and emotionally healthy and strong AF so that they can look, feel, and show up in their business and in their life as the best version of themselves. That's the current story that I've taken on, and I do my best to serve when it comes to that line of work.
You do. And it's funny because a couple of my friends, that's how I found out about you. Joey and Chris, and it's like, man, you gotta. And then I seen you on the flyer for Plugged In, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
You know how you like people talk to you and you hear it from 10 different people? And I think in my eyes, that's God saying, hey, you need to talk to Tanya. She could probably help you in a situation. So it's funny when you sent me the message, I was like, I was just gonna contact you because I had went and checked some of your information out and looked on your YouTube and everything. And I was like, I trust the people that recommended you. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you and everything that you do.
Well, I do believe that, when you focus on just being the best in your lane and truly serving and first being the byproduct, like being the work that you speak of, and then doing the best you can. Because when I take people on, I treat them as if they hold my name. So if they're winning, that means I'm winning. If they're losing, that means I need to step it up because there's something that I haven't gotten through to them to get them to win. And when I'm doing my job, the word is going to spread. And I'm grateful because it actually is spreading in the line of work that I'm doing. And people are really transitioning out of survival into thriving. And it just makes my heart really happy to see that.
That's good. And like our first discussion we had, I could just tell how genuine you were. And I was like, yes, I need. And then even when we go back and forth on the DMs and you say stuff like today, I was like, I know, you're right.
Yeah, don't let my kindness fool you. I'm very assertive. I am very strict. That's why I work with the top of the top. I work with pro athletes. I work with top end executives. I work with people who really strive to be a high end achiever in all aspects of life. And so people get confused because they look at me like, oh, she's looks really nice. But my clients are like, no, she's a shark.
Yeah, definitely.
She's aggressive.
Yes.
But in a good way.
Yes. So what I like to start out with is obviously everybody sees you now. We talked about your backstory. Let's take the audience back to, I was reading some of the stuff you sent over, where you were, your past. You wasn't always as successful. You always didn't, you haven't always had the self-love, the self-care. So tell them a little bit about your story, where you came from and everything.
Oh man, there's so many stories. I even have a recent story I'm going to be sharing tomorrow. But yeah, I came from a space of addiction. I was 60 pounds overweight. But at the same time, I also grew up playing sports. My life, I think so many people hear oh, I grew up with nothing. I actually grew up with a lot. My dad came from nothing. He built a successful construction company. So it's practically the stories that a lot of the audience and yourself and, people are working to build a better life for our children. That's what my dad did for us. However, he lost himself throughout the process, and work was always a priority. That's why I'm also one aspect of what I do I'm so passionate about, because of how it broke our family apart. Okay. And when you work so hard to build something and you aren't taking care of yourself along the way, that's your non-negotiable. No matter what, this is a non-negotiable, because my business is just an extension of me. My family is an extension of me. And if I'm not whole, if I'm not fulfilled, if I'm not strong, eventually things are going to break. And so with him, with the construction industry, he had a really bad accident and he had to get major back surgery, and they cut him from the front, from the back. They like literally just butchered him. It was like a horrible story back then. This was before the whole that opiate thing come out with the doctors that were going to jail. He was over medicated, still trying to go to work because he was addicted to work, like most of us are. We're work addicts, in grinding, the hustle, to go hard or go home. And he just was not getting better. He was getting worse. He got addicted to the drugs and he lost his whole business. And so that's like one part of the upbringing. But during that part, I was fortunate enough where we grew up with everything. We've had Hummers in the driveway. We had like a luxury home. We went to private schools. Like we were the kids of the kids that you're trying to build for your family. But those patterns also dwindled into myself and my brothers. Yeah. And it's a lineage of it because it doesn't just come out of nowhere. The tendencies are in there. So then I got into food addiction and alcohol addiction and just was a mess. There was one point where I was suicidal. I was just so insecure. I was very promiscuous. I was just a hot mess. And there was one point in life when I was in college and I was like, you know what? If I left, would people even realize I was gone? Yeah. Like if I decided, just like really in a space of like, if I'm not going to be here anymore, if I'm thinking of the possibility of dying, what if I really started putting my energy into a space of living, but like really living on purpose? And what would I have to do to really thrive? What would I have to do to build myself into a woman where I could say, wow, like that's a powerful woman. Like that's a powerful woman that's really serving the world and is going to leave the world making a mark and helping a lot of people. And then I just began that journey of, figuring out my relationship with myself and my connection to God. And, I promised God if that's in that, I got this tattoo on my ring finger of the Jesus fish, and whatever you believe in, if you believe in energy, whatever you need to believe in to get you through life, like hold on to that. Yeah. Whatever hope you have to get you out of the darkness, like hold on to that. So that's like how a big part of the stepping stone into me, like getting into, I call it a forward movement mindset. Okay. Like, okay, what can I do today just to feel good?
Okay, it makes sense. So was there a pivotal point when you was going through, the drinking and everything that you was like, that's it? Like it stops right here. Was it like an incident that happened? Because I know, in most cases, they say before someone gets to the next level, they have to hit rock bottom. And something I'm guilty of, and I was actually going to talk to you about this today. The last month and a half, 2 months, me personally, I kind of been like in a slump. And what I realized is I work better when I'm about to lose everything. It's like I go into 300 miles an hour when I should just maintain so I don't fall back into it. But sometimes I feel that I'm not challenged. And I'm like, you know what? I know that I can always bounce back. I know that I'm a hustler. I can get off, because I've been up and down. So for you, was it something pivotal that shifted that mindset?
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about too, because I'm like processing what you just said.
I can see it. I can see you. You're looking. I was just like,
she's like,
yeah, I seen it.
Part of the story of what I was saying is there's like this like extremist personality where it's like go hard, like 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. Yeah. And that also is another form of addiction. You could be like, I am only productive and efficient when I'm about to lose everything. So what you've done is you just created it's called a cellular impression that this is how I get massive shiznit done when I'm in this space. And it's not truth, because truth and belief are not the same. Belief is programming based on, here you go, you've had this experience, therefore it's either desired or undesired, and you're going to collect more of them. Mm-hmm. So you got attached to an end result, which is massive production. But in order to have massive production, there's an in-between space, which is to lose everything. And, so this has to be removed, but this is still kept. But what else can we put in here? Because something that we teach is like the law of substitution, even when it comes with psychological reprogramming, is what's the desired end result? Okay, let's keep that because it's desired, but it's an end result. And how do we swap out the programming where you can still have it all, but you don't have to go through pain in order to get it?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? You don't have
Yeah.
to create suffering to get this.
And now that I'm sitting there as you're saying it, I'm just saying like, man, it's why do I have to lose everything or feel like I'm losing everything to really step on the gas, like you said? But I know that all comes back to the programming, growing up as a kid, and things like that. Even when I used to play basketball, I performed better the last 3 minutes in the game when we're down by 8
Yeah.
than I did in the game when we was up by 30 points.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the pressure or the competition or just challenging, challenging myself. I don't know what it is, but I need to fix it.
Yeah, well, it's just establishing a forward movement mindset, something to be looking forward versus looking backwards.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're so attached to looking backwards and the attachment of an old identity that no longer serves us versus like a forward movement mindset of creation and programming and building that type of person that we crave to build. And, when we're in depression, a lot of it, Jim Carrey did a whole thing on it where he's like, depression is really when you've outgrown the character and the role that you're currently playing.
Amen.
And
Amen.
so so what, and if you keep playing that character, of course, something bad's going to happen to you because God's going to put a fire in your ass and be like, hey, grow.
Yeah. That's actually,
Go.
yeah, that's funny because about 2016. So me and my wife, we've been together 34 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we've been through up and down. We got 3 beautiful kids. Our youngest actually graduates in like 3 weeks. So, we're going to be empty nesters in another year or two. But what I realized uh, with my wife was along the journey, a lot of times when I was depressed, how I brought myself out of it was trying to become the new me.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it was like, because when we closed our business down in 2016, and this was weird, it was at the peak year, it was our best year. And I see you taking notes because you're going to tell me after this. See, remember when you said that?
Can you see? Is it obvious?
It's okay. So, our peak year, this was 2016. We closed our business down. It was my decision. That was the first year we did $1 million. We was at like a 45% profit margin. And I was like, I don't want to do this no more. And my friends was like, you're crazy. I'm like, I just don't want to do it no more. When I don't want to do something no more, I'm willing to go homeless because I don't want to do it. So from 2016 to 2018, those were probably two of my lowest points in my life, those 2 years. But I grew the most because I got in touch with God more. And that's when I actually started to pick up a book. Like I didn't pick up a book from 17 years old to 44. I was like, man, ain't nothing in no book.
But do you see because I'm gonna probably we do course correcting along the line of work that I do, but do you see the two impressions? So those are called cellular impressions. Like when we have impactful moments and experiences, life create impressions inside of our cells. And within our cells, we hold memories, and memories is what creates programming. And program is what creates our belief systems. And then we confuse beliefs with truth. And so what you did is you just exactly went back to the first part of the conversation is why do I feel that I have to lose everything in order to go to those next level growth moves in life? It's because you've had two experiences that created great impressions inside of you on a cellular level, which is also known as cellular memory. And there's a lot of different tools and modalities you can do for cellular memory releasing and reprogramming. And but that's a whole nother, we do a whole nother podcast on that.
My hair is standing up right now. Because I just saying, I'm like, damn, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So a cool exercise you can do specifically, and for those of you listening that also can relate to Shamus, is that you can go back in time and visualize the experience and just go back and visualize it. And what would you have done differently in time, either to prevent that from happening or course correcting it?
Okay. Okay.
versus
Almost like
having to get to that point.
that reminds me of pretty much like NLP, where you
I
go in
guess, yeah.
and you
Neuro-linguistic
reprogram.
programming.
Yeah, I got my practitioner's license with Dr. Bandler, which basically
Amazing. Do you use it on yourself?
no, I don't. I don't.
I literally had an assessment call the other day. It's like, I've gone to Tony Robbins, I've done this. And then if you're listening, yeah, I'm talking about you. Went to Tony Robbins, I did this, I did that. I had all these coaches. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, people come to me because they know that I'm the queen at getting them some magical way to implement and to integrate because, hey, guess what? That's 99% of your transformation.
Yeah.
And my people sustain it.
Yes.
And, because this shit works is I have to do it for myself. Like, I've been through a lot of freaking stuff of highs and lows, but it's like, how do you continuously, it's never going to be like this, you guys. It's going to be like, but it doesn't have to be like this.
Amen. Amen.
It can be like this, going down a little bit and backwards.
I don't like roller coasters. I'll take a train. I'll take a train straight across, but I do not like roller coasters. I'm not going up and I'm not going down.
It's you only get an up-down roller coaster, but a lot of people listening, a lot of people that I attract, a lot of people that come to me have very extreme personalities. It's an all or nothing. And it's in that route with like their entire like life box, with their relationships, with their businesses, with their, everything.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And it's funny. So to what I was saying, when I lost everything for those 2 years, like we barely was putting food on the table. The house was in foreclosure, everything. And I felt like I let my family down. We had bought my daughter, which got shipped off to the military at the time, a brand new Jeep. It got repoed, townhomes, everything.
Get it.
And then actually those 2 years when I started reading books, that's when I really started transforming the way I think, my mindset. And I remember specifically my younger son, we was leaving the property that we had foreclosed. We got foreclosed on, and that's another story. Like that was God working in so many ways.
I experienced all that, but with my family, like everything got taken away. The Hummers, everything got just taken away. It's the worst feeling in the world.
And when you have kids, they don't understand that. They just see mom and dad as a superhero. They're like, you know. And I remember telling my younger son, because we lost that property, and this is crazy. This is how you know I'm all in or nothing. We lost that property, and the next house that we got is the house I'm living in now, is the biggest house we have ever owned. And I still didn't really know how I was going to pay for it, but I'm going to figure this out. And I told my son, I said, you know why you never give up? And he was like, why? I said, because we're driving from probably our worst living condition to the best and biggest house we ever lived in. I was like, you don't stop. So enough with that.
But what I was going to say with this, what I took notes on, because what I've learned to do is write things down so I can be fully present, especially when there's something I want to add value to. And one of the lessons that I've been talking a lot in my stories on Instagram is there's never going to be a convenient time. So the moments when you feel, because the calling of growth is always going to come to you in like little voices or little sensations inside your body, because your body is your subconscious. That's what people aren't like understanding. We have to take care of our body because it's our subconscious. It impacts our mental, our emotional, and our intellectual way that we show up in life. And there's never going to be a convenient time to create our growth. So we have to typically, when we take those quantum leaps before something bad happens, because something bad usually happens because you're not moving when you're supposed to be moving. So when you move during inconvenient times and create how to make something convenient during an inconvenient time, which is always, you're never going to get to that point of those, like, I just lost everything, shit, now, like, what do I do? And I got to figure it out and scramble and be in this survival, high stress mode, because that is why a lot of people also having heart attacks and and breakdowns and anxiety and depression. And it becomes your new normal because you're not moving when you know it's time to move.
You know, it's so funny as you just said that when we was going through that situation where we was in foreclosure, I got hospitalized for a couple of days because I kept getting sharp pains in my heart. And I was going to a chiropractor and she's like, you need to check your blood pressure. And I'm like, nah. She's like, go check your blood pressure. It was like 170 something over like 130 something.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're lucky that you didn't have a stroke. And the
Yeah.
doctor asked me like, what kind of stress are you going through? And I just told him. So
Life stress.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not even joking. You're so young, and that's the thing is I get a lot of my clients, I get them off medication just by developing a foundational blueprint of how to take care of the mental, the physical, and the emotional, and that becomes your non-negotiable. You have to learn to prioritize yourself and know that your business is an extension of
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
And if something happens to you or you're out, guess what? You don't think the business is going to be impacted. You don't think your family's going to be impacted. I have experience of what that did as
Yeah.
from the child, aspect.
Yeah. True. Yeah, that's definitely true. So what would you say would be a good starting point for somebody that's actually trying to heal their self from the inside out?
That's a great question. First thing is they need to check their sleep. It's super simple. It really like the core of it is so simple. Number one, come to my webinar. It's free.
You know,
10 steps.
why I'm laughing why you say that, because I don't have it on now, but I wear the Aura ring.
Ah,
And I lay in my bed for 7 hours and I don't sleep no more than 4, and only about 30 minutes of it is REM sleep. That's every night.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you continue though, but it's funny when you
I mean,
said
it's
sleep, I
sleep,
was
but then you have to figure out, well, okay, it's not just laying in bed. Like, how do I get into REM sleep? That comes down to developing a solid night routine.
yeah.
Night routine impacts your morning routine. All the gurus are about morning. Like, hello, if you're not getting good sleep, you're not going to have a good morning routine. It's your night routine. A lot of like my big people I've worked with, they're all like, that was one of the biggest game changers is getting on a night routine. Okay, well, drinking some magnesium. A lot of people do, what's it called? Melatonin. Never mess
Yeah.
with hormone stuff. Never mess with hormone stuff unless you're specifically done blood work and prescribed from a doctor.
Okay.
Magnesium is one of the most underprescribed supplements to take that helps with stress. It helps with quality sleep. Be careful because if you're going to go crazy on it, like, oh, yes, I need to take all this powdered for magnesium, you're going to end up having diarrhea and you won't be sleeping either.
But so I'm gonna tell you, so my night routine was 150, and I got my personal trainer, she's like, you gotta stop taking so much. 150 milligrams of CBD, 2
Hmm,
teaspoons of liquid magnesium,
that's
a
a lot of
hot bath,
magnesium.
a hot tea, uh, lavender pillow spray, orthopedic pillow. Like I'm all out. And if I lay down in the bed at like 10 o'clock, I won't fall asleep until maybe 11:30. But 2 hours later, I'm up. And I remember
Okay.
my mother-in-law gave me an Ambien one time, and she's like, "You're gonna sleep for days." I took it at 11. At 1:30, I was up, fully charged.
Well, if you get up at those times, you could also go into a meditation.
That's
Get
what I
up, sit
think.
upright, go into meditation. I mean, everybody's different. I have to kind of peel back the layers of what's going on with somebody. There's some people where they're so much in their head. I know when we originally had the consult, I was like,
Yeah.
you're super in your head. I have my clients journal. Like, you got to get things out of the body because part of the subconscious is you got to bring it into conscious awareness. What's going on, deep rooted inside of you. Maybe you need to, in order to get it out, you need to write it, you need to hear it, and you need to speak it. Because we
Okay.
hold things in. Maybe you need to get in some EFT work where we're tapping into the meridian points and we're going through cycles of negative, positive, and you're just literally detoxing years
Yeah.
and years and years of trauma. That's the body. People think like, oh, I'm doing my night routine, and like you have to realize, like, you think your body carries cellular memory. It doesn't think like it's still in survival. Even though
Yeah.
there's no like war going on, there's maybe like a mental war inside of you.
You ain't lying.
So there's so many different tools. I call them tools, healthy
Mhm.
tools to help people get out of the survival, get out of that like primal instinct, so that you can actually get into a space of, more of feeling like you're thriving, calmness, peace, quality sleep. So those are a few like tools. You got to find the tools that work for you for right now, because we have so many seasons in life that we go through.
Yeah.
And then we're still like shedding like a snake. We're shedding skin and we're releasing, and we're cleaning up. And it's like, I don't know what's going on in somebody's head or in their heart or in their body, if their heart's closed, if it's open. So it just depends.
Yeah, I know. Those are a lot of things that I have to dig into because I know my heart's probably cold because I'm closed because I've been through so much. I don't trust a lot of. I was just telling my buddy, we was talking about growing up as a child, and I'm like, he was like, how did you grow up? And I said, well, I grew up in the South Bronx. I said, at 9 years old, I seen my first body. I seen somebody get killed, and
Yeah.
he was like, what? I was like, yeah. He was like, and then I remember one time a good friend of mine, Reggie, he had gotten in some trouble in upstate New York, and he was like, I'm gonna come stay with you in the Bronx. And he stayed for like 3 days, and in those 3 days, he seen 2 people get killed in my neighborhood, and he was like, I'm going back
Yeah.
home. And to me, that was
Yeah.
normal. I'm in protective
So in
mode.
the very beginning, like your body is taught to be like always on alert. So that's going to take
always.
time to
Yeah.
allow your body to feel safe. You don't feel safe. Sleeping for you means death. So that's a subconscious programming. If I sleep, I'm going to die. I could die. I need to be in high alert. It's not safe to sleep.
And you ain't lying, because on the side of my bed, I have my nightstand with my Glock 9mm, and I'm like, I got a gun on that side. I got a gun in the bathroom downstairs. I'm like, if anybody comes through my door, you're getting shot or you're getting bit by one of my Dobermans. That's definitely funny.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I'm saying. The body's the subconscious, it carries memory. Okay, so you guys listening, and my reputation is, oh, she's always gives homework. There's always something. Yeah, because I want you guys to grow. So there's a book called The Hidden Messages in Water, and it literally is the foundation. You have it?
I heard of it. So it's on my list.
Don't worry, guys. If you don't like books, there are a lot of pictures in it. I work with clients and families, and their kids end up taking the book. Like, it's a cool ass book.
Yeah.
And it's a great book to read actually with the family, because it literally talks about the foundation of life. So if you're somebody who's more like science-based and you don't believe into the woo-woo metaphysics, like law of attraction, totally fine. I love science, but I do believe in the metaphysics, but I also need like grounding things to explain how this stuff is possible. So that book is such a great way of explaining life and the impact of emotions and cellular memory and how it impacts our cells. And a fancy way of saying that is called epigenetics. So epigenetics really is just the power of, we have the power to reprogram and transform our life based on shape-shifting our belief system, based on shape-shifting our self-dialogue, based on shape-shifting the way, when we think differently, when we move differently, we have different life outcomes. So that's the concept of the book, and it breaks it down into a very simple, very fun, lots of pictures.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. I do audio books. I actually just started.
This one you want in book form though, because of the pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, definitely. So what does a good I would say,
we use the word great in our vocabulary.
Okay,
words carry power.
Great, got you. What does a great night routine look like to you?
Well, it's funny. I actually just talked to my astrologist. They say billionaires talk to astrologists, millionaires talk to therapists. So
I like that.
I talked to my astrologist, and because energy is real. Think about it, we all want vitality. Like how we're showing up based on what we're going through. We're both bringing energy and we're sharing energy together. So I mean, that's what it is. Hold on. She was saying, we're talking about rituals and routines. And getting back to what we were talking about earlier is like, I know, everybody listening knows, like we've had so many different like life stories, life experiences. That's why first time you're asking like, okay, who's your audience? Who am I speaking to? What part of my storyline am I sharing in this conversation? So depending on the story that you're currently telling yourself, I would say choose 3 things. And the biggest thing is more of developing structure. People need structure. The plugins, because most of us have a rebellious personality trait, to be told what to do, it like takes away your personal power. So when you have options of, I would say just create a toolbox. So I like to give structure and platforms and systems, and then give people the freedom to do the plugins as I guide them and give ideas with plugins.
Okay.
Like that's how I operate, and my clients have the most success that way. So I would say, number one, create a toolbox of things of what self-care means to you. Maybe it's a skincare routine. What's self-soothing to you? What helps you unwind? So when people say like, oh, I want to read at night, okay, great. But let's pay attention to, does the book you're reading, does it stimulate you and wake you up? Or does it soothe you and make you feel at peace? I personally like to read more spiritual books at night because it makes me feel safe. And it reminds me of the truth of that I am the creator and I was created and entitled to be happy and joyful and all this other stuff. And so I am safe and peace. Da, da, da. So what is self-soothing to you? What helps you unwind? And I would just make a list. We call it like a brain dump toolbox self-care routine. And then you want to have that structure like an hour before bed. It takes about an hour to calm down the nervous system. If you want to have, I've had some clients that went ham on it and they're like, I want 4 hours. I want to do the float tank and I want to do the, I want to do that. I'm like, whatever you want to do, minimum 1 hour before desired sleep. So if you, and we start backwards. So if you need to be up at 5 a.m. or you want to be up at 5 a.m., then, and you know that you need, average studies show people need around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. By the way, if you do struggle with sleep, I've studied a lot from Sean Stevenson, and he wrote a book called Sleep Smarter, Sleep Matters. I always get it confused.
Sean Stevenson?
I believe it's Sleep Smarter, Sleep Matters. I have to look it up. But he actually struggled at a very young age with degenerative bone disease, like in his 20s. And he couldn't eat healthy. He couldn't exercise. He would be running and all of a sudden he'd break his hip. I mean, he was like in his 20s. Like he was like a 1%er. Like doctors couldn't help him. He was in college. He was bedridden. He was doped up on meds. And he was just like, I can't live like this. Kind of like I was saying, like if you get to a point, you're like, I can't live like this anymore. This isn't living. I'm literally living hell right now. Like, so what can I do? So what he started doing, he started studying sleep. He's like just a sleep expert. I mean, he's overall, the Model Health Show, I think is his podcast. But he's got a really powerful story. And so his book is a great resource to read too, where he talks a lot about the power of sleep. But studies show about 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep. So then you work backwards. So if you know you want to be up at 5 and you need 7 hours of sleep, that means you need to be in bed by 10. So that means your self-care routine starts at 9.
Yeah. And that's one thing I like. So I'll kind of tell you, so in my house, I was getting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Because I was like, I want to get up when it's dark outside. That's giving me a mental, like, hey, I'm ahead of you. Then I just started struggling with that. So now I get up around 6 o'clock. I usually go to the gym. But then I tell myself, hey, you got to be in bed at 10 o'clock. So you got to lay down at 9. But in my house, we have, my son works, and he usually doesn't come in till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And he takes a shower upstairs, which the wall is right next to my bedroom wall. So I hear the water running. And then I have 4 Dobermans, and one of them basically sounds like a lion, and she barks all through the night at every car that goes by.
Oh, so now the truth of your sleep insomnia comes out.
Yes. I told my wife, I said, hey, I need to get a sleep chamber where it's soundproof and I get in it like Michael Jackson and I don't hear anything.
The hyper chair, what do they call the oxygen tanks? Those are amazing, actually.
Because what I noticed, like 2 months ago, I was out in San Diego for a mastermind with Carlos Reyes and all of them.
Yeah, Carlos is one of my clients.
Yeah, that's my buddy right there. Matter of fact, I was supposed to have him on a podcast like a week ago, but we're gonna probably schedule it for like next week or the week after.
Yeah, I'll be there. You're going to Freedom, right?
Yeah, I'll be there. So what's crazy is when I'm in the hotel, I sleep like a baby. I lay down at 10 o'clock. I get up at 5. I'll sleep 5 hours straight through, 6 hours straight through. But in my home, I just can't. I don't know why I can't do it. If we go on vacation, like me and my wife, we took like a 42-day vacation last year, and we was in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, and I wouldn't wake up until 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like I lay down at 10 o'clock, and I wake up 9 hours later, fully charged. So that's something
Yeah.
that I have
So
to
there's
fix.
two things. There's two things to that. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many pieces. People are like, oh, by the way, this is too. I was like, that's cool. Like, there's other pieces. Cool. I love puzzles. So two things to add to that. Since we're going like specific here, we'll just turn to a coaching session. Number one, if you are like, for me, I'm single. It's me. Like, I don't got to deal with anybody. I don't got people coming in and out. I don't got to worry about somebody else like waking me up, going to bed at different times. Like, it's just me. Like, but now when you're dealing with other people, number one, I always say, like, get other people involved on routines, because then you're actually doing them a favor by teaching them structure. When there is structure, there is order. When there is no structure, there is chaos. That's why the first thing that I do with people in one of the courses that I'm launching is a 21-day habit builder, is to build structure so you have a solid foundation. When you have a solid foundation, your sleep, your food, your exercise, your self-dialogue, like, forget it. Like, game over. No matter what comes into your life, like, you are solid. Nothing will ever break you. You can handle all things. But when that foundation is off, people are a hot mess, doped up on meds, because there's no roots. There's no foundation. It's like a business. A business will collapse with no foundation. So two things. Number one, get everybody on the same team. Like, hey, you guys, not that you have to go around, but like, listen, this is what I'm doing so I can operate at higher levels. This is something that I learned. Let's all figure out like what night routines are. Laying in bed by 9 o'clock is not the routine. The routine is like starting to turning off all electronics. That's one thing too, is an hour before bed, no electronics.
Yeah, I try.
So if you're reading, it has to be on paper. Because the electronics stimulate brain waves. It activates the blue light, all that stuff. And it gets your brain going. So you need an hour with no electronics to disconnect. Get everybody on the same page in the house. And then also, big thing a lot of people don't talk about is you need to feng shui your house. You need to clean up the clutter. You need to set up a really safe environment, especially in your bedroom. Your bedroom is a time of peace. So if that's where you want to create your meditation space, if that's where you want to create like a shrine, if you want to, also sleeping with an eye mask to block out all light. And also, like, what type of images do you have in your room? Do you have like business stuff in your room? Like, I don't have this like bright stuff in my room. I have actually like 2 elephants, and because elephants represent strength, family, loyalty. And I have 2 because I'm going to be attracting my partner. So whoever my perfect power partner is, because I'm a power woman on my own. So that means I need a complement, not somebody to complete me, but a complement. So every room you have in your house should be, I don't like using the word should because it's a word of self-criticism and words carry power, but every room in your home ideally needs to be intentionally designed like a vision board. So what is the vision for this room? It's peace, it's rest, it's intimacy. If you have your partner, that's what this room is for. Technically, televisions do not belong in. Well, when I use the word should, because choosing to not be in there, because that electromagnetic frequency also creates something called radioactive decay. And guess where it decays? Inside of our bodies, inside of our cells, inside of our minds. So that everything is either adding life to us or taking life away.
That's it. No more TVs in the bedroom, no more shows. I'm telling the wife it's over. Watch that in the other room.
I mean, if you guys, that's the thing is like people are like, but that's our family time. Okay, so start TV at 8 and then end it at 9 and like start doing partner stretching. And then who knows, only magic happens after couple stretching. So I don't think anybody's going to complain after that. That's where the magic happens. You might be on kid number 6 by then. Who knows? Right? However, people really need to learn how to become more intimate. Intimacy is based on just having conversation, coming up with a goals list as a couple, like having that time and really getting to know, like, hey, what's your day? What are your goals? What are your dreams? Like, what do you think we can be doing better together? What would be like your idea? Like, learn how to have like different conversations and get to know, your future selves versus a past versions of who you think that person still is based on a memory bank. That's
true. It's funny on It was like 2 days ago, and I told my wife, I said, "Can we just take a day to declutter the house?" Like my walk-in
Yeah.
closet, there's stuff everywhere, and when I look at it, I'm like, it just makes me confused, right?
Yeah.
Like just looking at it, it's like, okay, I know this is here, but this is not how I want it. And I
Yeah.
literally on my bathroom mirror, I write a lot of my goals on there, like how much, get closer to God, $2 million in revenue this year, all the
Hmm.
places I want to travel. And I gave my wife a marker. I said, on your side of the mirror, write everything that you want. So she's getting ready to get her real estate license. She's like, I want to do 1
Hmm.
million in revenue. I want a red convertible and a Tesla. I was like, and look at it every day. The good thing
Yeah.
between me and my wife is that I look at since we've been together so long and like couples ask me what's the magic? I said communication. I think
Mm.
communication is the key because I know when we were younger, she was more mature than me. So basically, she was more mature than me. I was the crazy one doing stuff, not caring about if I lived or if I didn't. And then as time went on, I became the more mature one where I was like, listen, you need to level up. You need to start reading more. You need to set some goals and everything. And I feel like every decade we outgrow each other, but we communicate and come back to a medium place. Like, hey, this is what we need to do. We're going to grow as a family. Like right now,
Yeah.
she's going to get her real estate license. My daughter has a year and a half left to get her architecture degree. So I'm like, we're going to have a
Mm.
real estate family. If I could just get my sons on board now with real estate, I'm like, we can
Yeah.
build this, But
Yeah.
that's funny.
Well, I mean, that's important. Just like you going back to the very beginning of our conversation, if you are outgrowing yourself,
Yeah.
what in your mind would think, or how would it even be fair for you to even think that the person you're with is still the same person you met how many years ago? You said 34 years
34.
ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, every day it's like, okay, well, who are your role models, who are you striving to become? And
Mm.
then challenging, like, just like you're challenging your own mind, or you hire mentors, or you have conversations, and conversations like these and these podcasts, like, oh wow, like I didn't think of it like that, or
Yeah.
wow, like I'm processing it differently. Like, growing together requires two whole people complementing each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It definitely
if
does.
you're not growing, you're not going to be whole.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. How important do you think it is to recharge, whether it's once a week, once a month, where you kind of reset? Like you said, like I know for us, me and my wife, we try to make that a Saturday. We get up the first thing we go, me and her every weekend, we do cryotherapy. So we get in the freezer, level 4, and we freeze. And then we go and have breakfast at the specific spot.
Yeah.
Then we go get a massage. I'm trying to find somewhere in Georgia that has nature. And she actually found somewhere because when I go to Arizona, I had told Carlos and Alex, hey, I want to go to Sedona. I want to take the day. I want
Yeah.
to go to Sedona. So how important is it for somebody to recharge, to reset them for like the next week or the next month or something like that?
Yeah. And I mean, that's a great question. It also comes down into your personal definition of what's a recharge. Because for me, recharging is getting quality sleep, doing my
Okay.
meditation, going to my yoga practice. Like, there's different levels of recharging. And that also comes back to like really knowing yourself. Like, do I need extra recharge, or do I need like just to hone in on like what I can create in my own safe environment, and then my external environment? Like you say, Sedona, for me, it's the beach. Then again, the beach is only 10 minutes away.
Hmm.
I could rollerblade there. So number one is identifying like what is recharging for me, being with nature. Sometimes it's spending quality time with a loved one.
Hmm.
Typically it's children because of the
Hmm.
playfulness and the innocence and the spirit. Like, I go spend time with my niece and nephew. I'm like, oh my God, this is so fun.
Yeah.
I'm in the bounce house with them. They're like, Tanya, get out of the bounce house. You're going to pop it. I'm like, this is
Fun.
like they say. They're like, you can catch me you can catch me in the bounce house.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
talking to the adults. I'm talking to the kids. Okay. but the thing is, it's like, what is recharging for you? Number one,
Yeah,
a lot of people don't even know what's recharging for them. So
I
what are
don't.
the micro recharges? What makes you feel? Because I would say, like, there's three. Getting back to the foundations: food, exercise, sleep. Exercise is to help quiet the chaos of the mind. Like if we really understand the placement of our foundation, we're more likely to not resist it and to prioritize it. Okay, so exercise to quiet the chaos of the mind, because that helps reset. That's like the reset button. And like, what's your database of exercise? Is it hiking? Is it rollerblading? Is it dancing? Is it the gym? Is it, yoga, Pilates, like walking? Like, what are those things? Because everybody's uniquely designed differently. That's why it's like, okay, I like to create a toolbox for you to come up with options. Food is to refuel, and it impacts our mental or psychological, whether you're having like anxiety, ADHD, like our food impacts all of that. It also impacts the quality of our sleep, inflammation, eating for your blood type, your relationship with food, alcohol, like what is going on with that, hydration, water. And then we get into the sleep, which is about recharging. Mm-hmm. So besides the external, what's going on with the internal?
Yeah, I think that's where I lack at, because now that you say that, I need to find time in a day, whether it's an hour or two, to recharge for that day. And that's what I used to do. I used to get up in the morning at 5, and I got like a big walk-in closet. And from 5 to 6, my routine was I would start out praying, talk to God for a few minutes. I would meditate for 5 or 10 minutes. I never got past 10 minutes because my mind is like, you're really going to sit here for 15 minutes and do this, and you got so much other stuff to do. And I'm like, shut up. And then I would go into my home office, look at my vision board, write in my journal. That was my morning. I haven't been doing it lately because, like I said, I feel like I'm kind of in a slump. But
you're in a slump because you're not doing it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
when
right.
When the foundation is off, you are off. This is what people like. This is honestly like it's literally so simple, but it's not easy because then the self dialogue. I'm wasting my time. I should be doing something else. This and this and this is. These things are non-negotiables. And like when I work with people, there's something called, I do a course, I run a course once a year. It's called the Get Shit Done Productivity course. Okay. And part of the course, there's 8 segments to it. One of the segments is to make a T-chart. Have you heard of a T-chart before? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So T-chart, for those of you who don't know, it's just like a straight line and then a straight line down that looks like a T. And then because of the way that the brain works is it goes from right to left. So on the right-hand side, you're writing everything that slows you down because the right represents the past, the left represents the future. Okay. So in the brain, psychologically, you're moving from past to future reality. Okay. So on the right-hand side, you're everything that slows you down, not getting enough sleep, eating junk food, staying up late, partying, being around energy vampires, not having any boundaries with my time. So maybe you go out, but you stay too long. You can still go out, but maybe for an hour versus 3 hours.
True.
Not doing a time audit, being wasteful, like whatever it may be, whatever slows you down, not working out. And then on the left-hand side, you say, what are the things that speed me up? Most of the things is when you take care of yourself. So even though it feels like we're taking away from work or away from family, these things are our non-negotiables because it's almost like a boomerang effect where we pull back and let go, and then you just. So these are the things I know are non-negotiables because they speed me up. Like even for me right now, I've been prepping for this webinar tomorrow, and my mind is like, you're not done yet. You need to stay in. You shouldn't be going to the gym. Like all these self-dialogues. And one thing you mentioned is like, you're like, okay, shut up. Don't say that. We actually want to do the opposite. We want to use our negative thought patterns and bring them in, allow them to have a voice like a child. Like if your child comes to you and like, man, I just had this thing I got to get off my chest. You're not even like, shut up. I mean, you probably could if you want, but I don't know what type of relationship you're going to have with your kids. They're probably not going to trust you anymore, and they're going to shut down on you. And then when you get older, you're like, I wish I had a better relationship. Well, it's because all those times you told them to shut up. So you got to treat yourself too like a child. We all have inner child inside of us, and the voices need to be heard. So take those voices, write them out, like, okay, I hear you, thank you. And then you say like, but this actually speeds me up. So when you do those, the voices then get like, the volume gets lower, and the other volume, which is our higher self, higher consciousness, becomes louder. And we want to use those voices as information, and we call them, and we do shape shifting.
Okay.
But we can't shape shift what we're not allowing ourselves to even hear or recognize in the beginning. So we want to use that information, those voices, those negative thoughts, as leverage to shape shift them into the opposite.
Okay. So, what's your top 3 books you would recommend? And I'm probably gonna buy all 3 as soon as you tell them. The
Well, one of
top,
them I already told.
the hidden messages in water.
Yeah. Okay. So hidden messages in water. So one thing too, like, because I love Carlos. We talk like almost every day.
Mhm.
He's so funny. He was asking me this, like, oh, I'm gonna get this, this, and this. And it's funny because when you get to a certain space, of course, I'm not the most enlightened person in the world, but I do believe I'm pretty enlightened. I do feel very connected to my higher self. I do believe that everybody has the ability to have that connection. The more that you implement self-care, your meditation, everybody has the power of that, like, supernatural, like, part of themselves. I've always gone back to yoga books. Yoga just means a union with your higher self. Books don't mean anything without implementation and integration.
Yeah.
So it's about taking concepts and applying. My second book is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And I did go through yoga teacher training. I've gone through 2 of them, plus read the book with the practice of it.
Okay.
Yoga is just a sutra, is just a thread, and it's literally like life coaching, life skills.
Okay.
Yeah. My third, I would say, which has really had to help me heal my relationship with money. Dr. Joe Dispenza's, and there's so many great books.
I love Dr. Dispenza.
Yeah, I went to his event actually, and that's like, you want to talk about meditation?
Yeah.
We had to meditate for 7 hours, like every day for a week. Yeah. So I was only doing like 15-minute meditations, but you don't realize, like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, for hours. I can't even see myself. Like, I sat there for 3. My way of doing that, I told my wife I want to find a monk retreat where they take all my electronics. I don't talk to the world for 30 days. Give me the robe that they put on, and let's just be silent.
Yeah, honestly though, like, I would say that's the problem with society, with people going to these retreats, even like addiction centers, because I worked with an exclusive center during COVID, and they had pro athletes there. They had, celebrity children there, and just like really well-known people there for like the best of the best treatment. It's $50K cash a month. Like, these centers bank.
Yes.
So why does it not work? It doesn't work because you're taking somebody out of an environment, which, yes, when they're in a very dangerous environment, it's important to get out of the environment. However, when you isolate people into a bubble, by the time they get back to a new, quote unquote, new normal, it's such an extreme, getting back to the extremes. When there's a high, there's a low. Many people relapse. So people are going to relapse from their new habits going away to these retreats because you can't figure out how to integrate and implement them into your life box.
That makes so much sense because I'm seeing myself now. Okay, I see myself coming from the monk retreat and just looking at everybody weird. Like, why are you talking?
And then you judge them.
Yeah, exactly. But like, why are you talking?
You're toxic.
Exactly. It's funny. It was when I first started, it was one point I was doing a book a week, mostly Audible, but I was just going through a book of the book. And I had told my wife, I was sitting in Waffle House one day and people were talking, and I felt like I was in a movie from The Walking Dead. I'm like, nobody in here can have a conversation with me. It would be way over their head. And that's how I felt. Like, okay, these are all zombies, and I'm sitting here. Why is he talking about this? Why is she talking about she needs to make more money? I just want to talk about peace, and I want to woosah. But
it's so funny. I had a conversation. I'm not going to name drop, but I had a conversation with one of my students, and he was like, there's so many transitions that happen. Like, I love healthy speed. So I'm always like letting people know the next phase that's going to happen before it happens. So they're prepared for it. And then they're like, oh shit, this is what she was talking about. because knowledge stems from experience. So you're not going to know until you have the experience. So he was like, yeah, and this person's toxic and I'm cutting them out of my life and them cutting them out of my life. And I'm like, you're toxic. I was like, they're like, that's your mirror. So clearly you see you've outgrown, but don't be going around bashing people when that's your mirror. Like you need to check yourself. Like that's your mirror.
From. Yeah,
you're toxic. You're shedding. If you allow yourself to grow, and this is what happens when people grow. When people grow, it's this exact analogy. I've had this analogy so many times because when you're in the growth space, you're going to be shedding even relationships. And just like you're allowing versions of yourself to die, I know it sounds extreme, but that's what it is. You're letting versions of yourself die. In yoga, they call it shavasana, the end space where you die, and then in the morning you awake. Every day is a death and awakening, a death and an awakening, a death and a rising. And so when you're growing, originally you're going to want, because you love people and your people are your people. And it's like, I'm going to pull you up here with me. It's so much better over here. You climbed a fence, you went off on your own for a little bit, and then you come back and you're like, come with me. And your people are like, no, I'm not ready. And all your energy is like this, and you're like fighting. So what you need to do is you need to keep coming up here, and the people that are meant to rise with you are going to gravitate. You don't need to go down to get them. They're going to rise up, and you create your own table, and you'll get there, and it's going to be a flow, but you don't need to go back down to get your people. Your people are going to easily want to rise with you.
Yeah, I definitely went through a lot of different years and phases in my life where I outgrew almost everybody I was around. I couldn't even sit and have a conversation, especially a lot of family. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. We talked about this the last 15 times we've seen each other. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to.
So all you do on those type of things is you just find the things that you love, especially about family. Like, what do you love? Like, what do you admire about that person? Maybe the common thing you have in common is like, hey, and you invite them like, hey, I'm going to a yoga place. Like you never spend time in it. I'm going to yoga. Do you want to go? You can never say you didn't invite them. I'm going to this place. You want to go? Like if they're going to go, they're going to go, but at least you invited them and it's a community based. You don't really talk, but also like, hey, maybe they love potting. Like, hey, I'm looking to put some plants in the house. Like keep the conversation based on something that you admire about them that they also enjoy. So this way it takes the focus off of you and what you're doing and how you change, and you celebrate them and the things that you love about them. So there's so many different, we could talk about literally every topic.
True. Okay, so what do you think, and this would be my last question.
For now.
For now, right? Hey, I got this question. How do you think, or what would be the best way for somebody that's in an environment that they feel like, they're trapped in there, they have limited beliefs and they don't kind of see no tunnel or no way out? How do you think they should approach that as far as like trying to figure that out? Because a lot of us at times, we talked about the environment. We're in an environment and there's nobody around us that's like, hey, Tanya, come with me. You're like, I'm here by myself. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody that's in that position?
I would say the first step of growth, because one thing I teach, and I also go through, I'm in that space right now, but I'm on my transition out of it, is you go through an ostrich phase where you literally have to be in your own world, in your own lane, minding my business, minding your business, and literally stick your head into an ostrich space and just learn to change your internal environment first. If there's nothing, because some people can't change their external environment, but the external shifts from the internal. Yes, it can help if you change your external, like clean up your freaking home, declutter your home, learn about like feng shuiing, learn about like how can I make my home more safe for me? How can I maybe just make my room better? Like maybe you're still living at home or you're sharing space, you're renting a room, depending on what's going on or how old you are, your financial ability. Like you can create your own, like becoming more clean, more this, but also like the first space is like start taking care of yourself, start exercising every day. If you said like writing on the mirror, I would say write all the negative self-dialogue you have, and then write the opposite of it.
True.
So this could, because people are like, oh, affirmations don't work. I get it. I was angry with affirmations for a long time. And I gave myself permission to be negative. I give myself permission, because when you give yourself permission, you then take off all the pressure and judgment and self-criticism. Like, because then you bash yourself for being angry. You bash yourself for judging. You bash yourself and you're a bad person. You're not a bad person. It's your programming. It was learned somewhere from someone, typically from childhood. It's called shadow work. It's personality traits, but personality traits can be reprogrammed. So give yourself permission to write your negative, and then this way, because that's also an affirmation. An affirmation is a statement that's being repeated over and over and over again until it becomes your predominant belief and your predominant truth for you and your life and your reality. So write your negative, and then write the exact opposite of what that is. I'm never supported. I can create support within myself. I'm in the process of learning what support is. And you can also change it with I'm in the process of. It makes things a lot lighter. Learn how to take care of yourself, your physical, your self-dialogue, of course, your sleep, like we talked about, and also cleaning up your food. You know?
I'm going to work on all those things. Well,
Tanya, just come to my webinar.
I got you. So I want to give you a few minutes to tell all the listeners you've been on here we've been on here for an hour. I know we could talk for hours. Tell everybody where they could find you, social media, on YouTube, the events you got coming up. How do they get in contact with you? I'm going to give you the floor. Sure.
Yes. All right. So we got a lot going on. Instagram has everything up in my link at Tanya, TANYAC Oliver, OLIVER. I also have my website, www.Tanya, TANYAC Oliver, OLIVER, OLIVER.com. /10 steps. You can get 10 steps. We have a free webinar on 10 steps to build mental strength and reclaim your personal power. It is going to be so fire. The top 10 things that have tremendously transformed my clients, myself, kind of put it all into like an hour webinar. So that's free, and that's free for you guys, my gift for you guys. And YouTube, same thing, Tanya C. Oliver. So that's where you can find me.
Yes, and everybody that's listening, where I'm at in my life right now, I need Tanya there because I'm confused and I'm lost and everything. But I definitely seen a lot of the individuals that you work with, mainly one of them being Carlos. And I had told him, I said, I seen you grow like so much. Because I remember meeting him in 2019 and he was a totally different person. And I was like, I seen the growth. You know, my buddy Joey and Chris, they lived there like, oh my God, this is changing my life and everything. So you definitely got to check her out. Stay tuned. I appreciate everybody that supports us. Once again, this is the Educate to Elevate podcast with Tanya Oliver. I thank all of y'all for listening. Have a blessed day.